It's time to join reality. Iran is actively involved in killing U.S. soldiers and civilians inside Iraq and inside Afghanistan. It's also offering safe haven to al-Qaeda.
He's also killing 85% of our troops in Iraq because, as I said, 85% of the troops are being killed by Iranians. They're behind every rock in Iran. I know, I've been there.
Meanwhile, coalition forces in Iraq came out today with what they say is more evidence of Iranian involvement in the Iraqi insurgency, evidence that Iran is training Iraqi fighters on Iranian soil to fight against coalition troops. General Caldwell presented what he says are recent arms captured with Iranian writing on them.
Well, they tell us they're among the deadliest weapons that Iraqi terrorists have at their disposal. And tonight, new word, what they're learning and how to use them in Iran. Commanders from one militia group tell the Associated Press that up to 4,000 fighters have trained in Iran on how to make explosively formed penetrators. And the United States military confirms that troops have captured some fighters who have clearly trained in Iran.
The forces that we are fighting in Iraq, al-Qaeda on the one hand, Iranian-backed elements on the other, are the same forces we're fighting everywhere.
We know the attacks are connected to al-Qaeda, but is Iran pushing the terror buttons?
Iran may be hatching a secret plot to drive out the United States from Iraq this summer. American officials say Tehran is forging ties with al-Qaeda, as well as Sunni militants, in preparation for an offensive. Authorities reportedly say the goal is to get the U.S. Congress to vote for a full military withdrawal. Iran has reversed its policy in Afghanistan and is now supporting the Taliban.
Meanwhile, coalition forces in Iraq came out today with what they say is more evidence of Iranian involvement in the Iraqi insurgency, evidence that Iran is training Iraqi fighters on Iranian soil to fight against coalition troops. General Caldwell presented what he says are recent arms captured with Iranian writing on them.
Well, they tell us they're among the deadliest weapons that Iraqi terrorists have at their disposal. And tonight, new word, what they're learning and how to use them in Iran. Commanders from one militia group tell the Associated Press that up to 4,000 fighters have trained in Iran on how to make explosively formed penetrators. And the United States military confirms that troops have captured some fighters who have clearly trained in Iran.
All right, well, my next guest says that Iran has not only provided support to terrorists in Iraq, but get this, he says that U.S. forces have actually engaged in combat with Iranian troops on Iraqi soil.
And I have a big problem with going to Cuba, who seems to be very much in bed with Iran, who may be making
who have arrested countless people
who are killing our troops at a time of war where our troops are being killed in the field, and we are going to get in bed with Cuba, makes me want to vomit.
There's a report out of London over the weekend suggesting at least 4,000 Shias loyal to the anti-American cleric Muqtada al-Sadr are receiving training at a terrorist training camp near Tehran.
The amount of training and equipment that Iran is pouring in support of not only, by the way, the Mahdi army and Shiite militias, but also providing military assistance to the Sunni insurgents. Iran has made a calculated decision to kick the United States out of Iraq as quickly as possible, if they can do so, in order to protect itself from any American effort to stop its nuclear weapon development.
Developing tonight, bombings in Afghanistan are on the rise, and the Pentagon says Iran is at least partly to blame.
The Pentagon has also said this week they now have evidence that Iran may be supplying not just Shia groups in Iraq, but also Sunnis. They say that they got this from recent interviews with detainees in Iraq. All of this showing that Iran is trying to destabilize now two countries in the region, according to U.S. generals.
They believe that there's a direct Iranian connection to this. Al-Qaeda is actually functioning, at the very least, getting a blind eye as they can function and plan and plot with Iran looking on. Now, Iran used to, for a while, feel as though they were at odds with al-Qaeda, but they also seem to hold a lot of higher-ups within al-Qaeda in their country. They claim are on house arrest. Together, they have one goal, though. I mean, obviously, they don't like Britain, and they love to make a huge impact, but they never leave their fingerprints on anything.
If there is some involvement of Iran, and some of the early press stories here have suggested that, because Iran has nuclear materials, if not yet a bomb, that would be a pretty good reason, I would think, for everybody to start paying attention to the possibility that It may not be that the Sunnis are always opposed to the Shia and the Shia to the Sunnis and the secular to both and so forth, but there's an old Middle Eastern saying, me against my brother, me and my brother against our cousin, me, my brother, and our cousin against the stranger.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Right. But they could be working together against us. If Iran is playing together with al-Qaeda and the residual Ba'athis in Iraq or others to facilitate some of these things, it's a real threat to the West and Western Europe and ultimately to us.
The top U.S. commander in Iraq speaking out, saying the situation there is made worse by Iran.
The one thing I'm wondering, Martha, here is that the Saudis have been calling for the Iranians to return a number of jihadists, probably al-Qaeda operatives, to Saudi Arabia. The Saudis believe that a number of attacks in Saudi Arabia have been orchestrated by al-Qaeda out of Iran.
Yeah, Neil, one of bin Laden's stated goals has been to bring down the Saudi regime and cripple the oil industry. The news of this massive arrest is raising questions about whether al-Qaeda operatives under house arrest in Iran are part of the operation.
These al-Qaeda operatives in Iran today may also be behind this current plot, but this is very serious. You're talking about people abroad being training in aircraft to fly into either buildings in a 9/11 style attack or into oil refineries.
And though the investigation is far from complete, some analysts question whether Iran may have a role in this case because several senior al-Qaeda members are being held by that country.
It is not a civil war. There is some sectarian violence between Sunni and Shia, most of it being stirred up by the Iranians.
So, you know, it's interesting because you say that it doesn't matter that much whether or not bin Laden is alive or dead, given the fact that you feel that he's been marginalized to a certain extent by A, the war on terror, and B, the rising influence of Iran in international terrorism, right?
Both those factors are correct. And so now you've got the Iranians who are literally holding many of the al-Qaeda Sunni leadership, not to say hostage, but they're supporting them inside Iran, and they're really controlling both Shia and Sunni activities inside Iraq, and they're also funding a lot of the activities of the so-called al-Qaeda in the Balkans, particularly in Kosovo, linked directly to the people who tried to stage the Fort Dix attacks just recently.
Well, weapons from Iran are following across the nation's border into another in Afghanistan.
There have been indications over the past few months of weapons coming in from Iran. We do not have any information about whether the government of Iran is supporting this, is behind it, or whether it's smuggling, or exactly what's behind it.
What's clear is that a major conflict is emerging in the region between Iran and its agents and the rest of the region. Its agents, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Palestinian Authority areas, and the extremists in Iraq. And what I said is that our military has been making clear for months now that the Iranians are training and equipping extremists to come into Iraq, and they are killing with explosive devices a lot of Americans and Iraqis. And this is all about protecting the lives of the American soldiers who are there for us. People say they support our troops. The Iranians are enabling others to kill American soldiers with explosive devices that the Iranians are providing and training terrorists to use. We can't let them continue to get away with that.
The Iranians have been interfering in Iraq for some time now. We have ample evidence of their supplying extremists with weapons, training, perhaps even Iranian forces themselves. And this is just basic, that if they're using Iran as a safe haven, that our forces have a right, in pursuance of their right of self-defense, to go after the Iranians, even into Iran. And I think he makes an equally important point, that the Iranians have to see this as a risk that they run, not just with their interference in Iraq, but on their nuclear weapons program as well. Well, I think Iran is an equal opportunity supplier of terror. Certainly they are aiding the Shiites, but I don't doubt that they would be opportunistic enough to aid anybody they thought would be prepared to kill American troops.
Ambassador, it's not Joe Lieberman that's threatening to wipe an innocent country off the map and denying the Holocaust. He is the one with the aggressive rhetoric. I think your insights are very keen, sir, as are Senator Lieberman's. Thanks for being with us.
So what do you make of this latest word from Nicholas Burns? Let's skip to that for a moment, of the Taliban and Iran dealing with weapons and sending them to Afghanistan.
Well, if true, and I don't doubt it, this is proof that Iran will supply anybody, even Sunni extremists rather than Shias, who are out to harm the United States and harm our friends and allies. And I think this is a clear demonstration that Iran is feeling its oats. It's pushing out in a variety of fronts. It doesn't see anybody pushing back, including, sadly, the United States. And it's going to keep doing that until it does meet resistance.
Is Iran happy that Hamas is in control of Gaza? Were they behind it?
Iran actually gave the order because Hamas didn't have to rush that fast. They had the cabinet. They were doing well. My estimate is that the Iranian and the Syrians, of course, the coalition, the Axis, were the ones to tell Hamas, take over the Fatah position, create a Taliban-like state in Gaza, and then, destroy the peace process. That's the aim of Iran today.